Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of All Knicked Up. It's Thursday night, not Wednesday. Do not adjust your calendar. Do not double check it. It is Thursday. We had to push it back a day. I had family visiting. I had some obligations I had to take care of, so we had to push it back one day. So I want to thank everyone for joining us here on a Thursday night instead of Wednesday. And of course, we're going to be talking about the New York Knicks and the Knicks' first round playoff matchup. As we said last week, they had clinched the playoffs. Well, they are now officially in, and they have their matchup set. We kind of touched on it a little bit last week as well, but let me bring in right now just Ty, because Craig is still working and trying to make that money. So so he's gonna be joining us a little later. But Ty, man, how are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. We actually have after a 1-year hiatus, we actually have a playoff series to talk about.
Finally, we're here. Finally, the host, finally, we're here.
Yeah, man. So this is going to be, it's interesting to be back. I don't think either of us expected the result we got this year, at least, with how high they finished, how many games the Knicks won. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit of a surprise, I think, to the both of us. But we are here. And yeah, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of built-in drama in this series without us even having to talk much about the game itself. Mm-hmm. And of course, the biggest one we touched on a little last week is the Donovan Mitchell factor. Obviously, depending on the story you believe, the Knicks were heavily involved in trying to acquire him last summer. There are various trade packages were bandied about. Various players were included, and they weren't included. So it's been kind of an interesting year to watch what unfolded between for the Knicks and also for his team, the team he did get traded to, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mm-hmm. So a little bit last week we went into this, but who do you think has a bigger target on his back, the Knicks or Donovan Mitchell himself with Cleveland?
Wow, that's a very good question, because I guess when you look at it with Donovan, it wasn't like he asked to go to Cleveland over New York. So it's not, that whole narrative is not even involved. So we're basically seeing that a guy got transplanted to a place he didn't want to go probably, but ended up there and pretty much just, did his thing like he normally does, like he did in Utah. He comes into Cleveland and they're one of the best teams in the conference once again. I think when he was in the West, he usually was number 1 or number 2, which is crazy enough. And they just usually, play it out in the playoffs. I think I guess if I had to think about it, I guess Donovan Mitchell has a little bit more pressure on him than New York Knicks, although I know the narrative from some of the talking heads in New York, like, the Rocket dude, my dude from, we can't really call him what we want to call him. At least I can call him without getting sensitive, probably canceled. But those pundits will probably say, "Oh, it's the Knicks, they failed," blah 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 blah. But for me, Donovan Mitchell was a person that wanted out of Utah, so he wanted greener pastures. Whether it was going to be in New York or obviously he lands in Cleveland. We heard Miami might have been a spot he would have landed. So clearly he was done with the organization, and kind of, tiptoed his way out to, New York to hang out, getting some halal and all that other stuff that goes along with the city, showing up at Mets games, feeling like a New Yorker, during the summer. So, clearly he wanted out. He clearly wanted to come to New York. Now, he's in Cleveland, like I said, 4th place now. You wanted greener pastures, now you have it. We're going Joe Kim Noah here. Nobody vacations in Cleveland, so it might not have been the most ideal spot where he landed for himself. But I'm going to say Donovan Mitchell has more pressure to prove that he wanted out of Utah for a good reason and that he could find greater success in another uniform. So I'm going to say him as opposed to the Knicks. I mean, the one pundit is going to come on, and we're probably going to go into specific players that may have more pressure on New York, being that they were supposedly involved in a package deal. So maybe that would have been the guys that feel pressure to outperform him and say that, look, the Knicks made the better choice of holding to their supposed assets as opposed to giving them up for Donovan Mitchell. So,
yeah, I agree with that as well. But before I go into it, I didn't expect him to be here this quick, but Craig is here, so let's bring him in.
Zaddy West.
Yes.
What's up, everybody? Sorry about that.
You are here, so this is good. I thought we might be a little bit longer before you showed up, but Craig has showed up. So I just posed the question to Ty about Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, is probably the biggest, I want to say the biggest undercurrent in this series because of what happened this past summer. So do you think that he has more pressure to beat the Knicks, or do the Knicks have more pressure to win this series because they didn't get there?
I think it's might be twofold, right? I mean, because I think it's pretty obvious that the Knicks wanted him and he wanted the Knicks. So I think that it's, if you listen to people like Stephen A. Smith, the Knicks have to win.
Rocket.
They have to win, right? I don't necessarily think they will, but in his eyes, they have to. I think it's, like I said, I think it's split down the middle. I think that there's pressure on both to kind of win, to expel some of those demons from both sides. But no, I don't think there's really that much pressure on either of them or either side that overpowers the other or is more than the other, if that makes sense. If anything, it's like 60-40, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's this. The series has a ton of other things involved too, right? The Knicks won the season series against them. They beat them, I think, 3 out of 4 games. The Knicks were 3-1 against Cleveland, but then Cleveland finished with the better seed, right? So they have home court advantage. So then they have, if you're looking at it from that perspective, then they should be the favorite team in the series. They should be expected to win. And whenever you're expected to win, your star player usually has more, pressure just because of that. But because of the whole, like Tyra's mentioned him before, not only were the Knicks interested in him, he is a New Yorker. He grew up here. He was a fan of the team growing up. Like, there's a lot of subtext in this series with just him. We haven't even gotten to the other players yet. I do think the pressure is on him for all the reasons I just stated, not just because it's the Cavs and it's Knicks Cavs and they're the 4th seed, but all the extra layers. I think he's going to feel the pressure. The other thing is, outside of the bubble, he hasn't performed well in the playoffs. I mean, let's just keep it real. He hasn't. He's a fantastic player. I will not deny it. I've always loved him. I wanted the Knicks to draft him, so I'm not going to say he's a bum or, I'm happy he's not here. I just, he hasn't performed well in the playoffs. And last year, we'll talk about it. We talked about it last week. Jalen Brunson, who he's going up against this time, kind of outplayed him.
Yep.
So, there's a lot and I'm sure that's going to be on his mind, right? I'm sure that's going to be on Mitchell's mind as well. Like last year, this guy dogged me pretty much. In another series that Utah was favored to win, like all of that stuff last year was also in play, and it didn't work out that way. So it's going to be super interesting. I mean, there's so many other storylines within this series, but that's probably the one. The first one I want to bring up just because of everything that happened over the summer. Mm-hmm. Next, the other one really is this Julius Randle. We don't know yet. He was supposed to be reevaluated today. They said 2 weeks. This was the 2 week, post-injury. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear any updates about how he is. The only thing we heard, and Thibodeau spoke about it, was that he is running, shooting, and scripting, whatever that means. I know it means scripting for the team. I understand that, but he didn't say much. He said if he could go, he could go, and if he can, he can. The Knicks are so tight-lipped. So we touched on this a little bit last week as well, when we didn't know. So we thought he might be back, but it looks like game 1 might not be possible. He might not be back till game 2. So I guess from Cleveland side, Ty, I'll ask you this question. From the Cavaliers side of things, how would you approach this series with him kind of as a question mark?
I think they should be a little bit nervous with what Thibodeau is actually revealing. I posted on another thread. I said, you can't plan for the unknown. You can't, and that's the whole thing. I think Randall's going to be good for the game one. I think the Knicks are playing very coy with regards to this. Thibodeau's an old school coach. They're probably not going to hand out the lineup until 1 minute before they have to, actually expose who's in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, when looking at him on the sideline, I thought he looked like he looked great. I mean, he's not in the boot. Whether or not his mobility is intact is another question, but we're not talking about a super athlete here. You're just talking about a guy who just plays, a complete bully ball. I mean, he's really the bull in the china shop in so many ways. I don't know. I think that for Cleveland, I think it is a mystery because now you have to figure out what kind of lineup you're going against with the Knicks. Are the Knicks going to go small, with a guy like Obi Toppin who could stretch the floor? Now you bring in one of those bigs out to the perimeter, that he can probably get right past. I don't think that he's going to have a problem getting past any of the centers on Cleveland. So now if you're Cleveland, how do you guard against any of the players? Because the Knicks have, if anything, have proven this year that next man up theory does work for them. They go deep into the bag of tricks, which is their bench, and everybody's hungry on the Knicks. I think that's the one thing that we probably couldn't say. We couldn't probably say 20 years ago that everybody wanted to be on the team and everybody wanted to play, and every guy wanted to give his full 100% effort out on the floor. I think those unknowns about the Knicks players, and what they're capable of. I think Cleveland has a lot of question marks, from them being inexperienced also. Their best person on the team, I guess, if you're going to go veteran-wise and playoff-wise, is Donovan Mitchell. And you touched on him being a little short in the resume as far as being greatly successful in the playoffs. So we can't say that we know what he's done. What he's done has been a dud a little bit when, he's got great numbers, but he's been a dud success-wise in the postseason. So now we're moving on to who is the second person on that team that you could say is playoff tested and has a little bit of a resume on it in their file. I don't think they don't have a second player. I don't recall. No. I mean, you're going to give Ricky Rubio. I mean, how much is Ricky going to really play? Karis LeVert, but he had a couple of. He played in the first round, I think, with the Nets, probably.
With the Nets, yeah.
So. Which was a team, I think they got a gentleman sweep, I guess, at one point on them. So it's like, well, who do they have? So a lot, once again, the question before was, where does the pressure lie? I think a lot of it is going to be on Donovan Mitchell because he is the guy on Cleveland with both the resume, meaning experience-wise in the playoffs, and he's the number one player on the team. So I don't know. It's a lot of question marks for Cleveland. I think they're more questionable than the Knicks because we know what the Knicks are supposed to lose. If you let everybody say they're 4, they have no pressure whatsoever to win this series. And I think Cleveland has way more question marks than the Knicks because once you go Jalen Brunson, you're going Josh Hart, probably the second guy if you want to say experience. Randall was his first year with the bubble, so we know how we all feel about that.
Right.
You got guys on the bench, Derrick Rose, if you need to call on a vet. You got Evan Fournier, big-time player. As much as those old bags are not getting too much attention now, they still have quality playoff runs in them where if called upon, if the young guys seem to buckle under the pressure, you got guys that have playoff experience that are made for this type of season, the postseason. So the Knicks this is one of the strangest years I could ever say this, but I think the Knicks may be one of the more qualified teams going into the playoff versus an opponent. We've never said that before in a long time. They might be the more ready team, funny enough.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that, even if they don't play, having a guy like Rose who's been through the wars on their bench, even for like an ear for someone to talk to for quick. And even though it was a short series, like Barrett got some experience in against Atlanta, right? These guys had a little bit of experience from that Atlanta series that they can draw back on just in knowing the intensity and how much higher you have to play, the level you have to bring in the playoffs. Craig, so we talked a bit about Randall's injury. Now we know his backup is Obi Toppin, and As a starter this year, Obi Toppin is averaging 22 points per game. He's shooting 58% from the floor and 44% from three. Now it's only a 5-game sample size, but do you think the Knicks will be okay with Obi in the playoffs now if Randall can't go?
I want to say yes based on that small sample size. But again, things change in the playoffs, right? So they'll probably, I'm assuming they'll find a way to go at Obi's weakness.
Mhm.
And whatever that seems to be. I mean, yeah, he's taking people off the dribble a lot more, but that's still not a strong suit. And for as crazy as Randall is when he's taking people off the dribble, there's a part of me that still kind of trusts him more taking people off the dribble more than, again, I understand the whirling dervish and all the nonsense that he does, but I still kind of trust him just a tad bit more because, he's got the physique to do it, right? He pushes off a lot, stuff like that. But unless they're going to utilize Obi the way they probably should be using him, like you mentioned all the time, via pick and roll, then how is he going to punish anybody on Cleveland, right? And they have they have a long front court with Allen and Mobley, so it's I don't know. I mean, I think it'll go either way. A part of me wants Randall to come back and play, but then a part of me wants to see what Obi can do because you better believe even if they lose this series and Obi plays like somewhat of a competent starter, hopefully that means they'll have no problem with Randall being disposable next via trade at some point. So I'm not gonna harp on Randall. I'm just saying there's a lot of caveats to this, a lot of subplots to this entire series, and there's a lot depending on whether what the Knicks do.
I mean, no, that's perfect. That really is they're kind of in a weird position that it's kind of, to me, I look at this as a luxury for them right now to be where they are because, they do have guys like Randall and Brunson who are good enough as star players to get them to this point. But then we always talk about the flip side, the bulk of this team is a younger team. The bulk of the talent on the Knicks is a younger group of guys. So you kind of want to develop them as well. So there's kind of two things going on here. Mm-hmm. And, that's another dynamic to add to this. Like, what does this mean for the future? And that's a perfect example bringing up Randall and Obi. In his career, Obi has started 15 games, and he averages 21 points and 6 rebounds on 58% shooting, 44 from three. So even as a career, if you look at his career numbers in 15 games, he's better as a starter than he is as a reserve. So that's another layer here. The Knicks could look at that as well and say, well, his value really is better the more touches he gets, the more playing time he gets. And that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. So not only does the Randall injury impact this series, it's going to impact, like you said, Craig, probably what's going to happen going forward with him as a player and here with the Knicks. I'm sure right now the plan is to keep him and keep moving forward with him, but who knows what's going to happen in the summer if a certain player might shake loose that the Knicks want to try and engage and grab and see if they can get him. So we'll see what happens. But this, again, more subtext, right? More subtext in this series than anything else, than a lot of other things that in other series that have a lot of drama that won't exist there. So this could be a highlight, marquee series for the NBA, not just because the Knicks are in it, but for everything that we're discussing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is you brought it up a little bit, Craig. You brought up the front court of Cleveland, Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. They're big guys. And then the Knicks, of course, have Mitch Robinson and then Isaiah Hartenstein coming off the bench. To me, that's kind of the key to the series. I think whoever wins between the bigs in this series is probably going to win the series because they're going to they're going to do all the dirty work, right? They're going to be the guys getting all of the rebounds and blocking the shots and positional defense and talking and all that stuff. So who do you give the edge? Ty, who do you give the edge?
This might, because I hate doing asterisks next to some of our players. If we get the Mitchell Robinson, I think the last game or the game prior, I know he's not going to block 7 shots. I know he's not going to do that.
We talked last week, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I give the edge a little bit to the Knicks. And I know Jarrett, like Afro Samurai, is a bad dude. I like him. He's a baller.
Yeah.
Then Mobley is the unknown. Is he that physical dude? Will he get lost playing next to Donovan Mitchell, which we've kind of seen happening now? Even though Cleveland's successful, this guy was touted to be Rookie of the Year. He has star potential, and yet we don't see that. His role. Hartenstein is way better than people may have thought. Even myself, I always said that I thought he would finish games when we first got him, and then he went through his little lull, and his injury supposedly, I guess he had, kind of slowed up what we bought, put it so to say. But now we're watching a guy who can shred a defense with his passing. He seems to be very engaged. He's shown physicality. He was one of the better rim protectors, in the league. The Knicks got two of the better offensive rebounders, too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he ranks up pretty high as well. The Knicks do have the edge. If Mitchell Robinson doesn't, I hate to say this about him because I like Mitch, if he doesn't disappear, because he has a tendency to kind of say, oh, my bad. He has those my bad moments, and I think he can have one of those in this series. I think he has to just be that bad dude in a good way. Bad meaning good. He's going to be a bad dude this whole series and just completely annihilate Afro Samurai, because I think he's the key difference. If Mitch outplays Afro Samurai, I think the Knicks are winning this series pretty decently. But he has to outplay that guy. He has to say, you're not the best center in the East. You're not above me. He's got to come out and take the onus on him to say, I am going to come out and destroy you tonight on the boards, and don't bring no crap in here. If Mitchell Robinson plays with that kind of intensity, the Knicks got the edge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's I kind of tend to agree there. When he's at his best, he's a dominant player. I don't see that with Allen. Even when Allen is great, he's not like a what's the word I'm looking for? He's a very subdued guy. So when he plays, he might play great, but he doesn't play great, and you're like, and get guys going around him.
Yep.
Mitch does. Like, Mitch is much more of a demonstrative player, and I think that helps this team specifically. So I do agree that that's probably the biggest matchup. The starting centers is the biggest matchup there. So, Craig, we've seen in the past, I want to say month, since the All-Star game, really, Isaiah Hartenstein's been playing very, very well. But we've seen in the past month, they've kind of run the offense through him a little bit more. Is that something you think the Knicks might do against Cleveland with him, just to kind of, have him? He's such a good passer, just to have him kind of control things a little bit.
I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, we've seen what he can do with the Clippers, and now that Tibbs seems to be playing him the way that he should have been playing him since the beginning. Beginning of the season, something you pointed out a lot. I gotta say, I feel like, I hate to relive the past, but I feel like there's going to be one or two players that are not going to show what they've shown towards the tail end of the season, what they're going to show in the playoffs. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I remember 2013, Tyson Chandler didn't show up. I know he has some things going on, and Jason Kidd just completely hit a wall, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's going to happen in this series. I feel like at least two players are not going to show the way we expect them to. And I feel like one of them is going to be Mitchell Robinson, and I feel like the other one is going to be Hartenstein. And it's crazy that you said that, because I feel like, even though Robinson, I feel like Jared Allen is a better offensive player than Mitchell Robinson is. I think I think that'll show a lot in this series. And if Mitchell doesn't bring it, because he had, like you say, a tendency to kind of just fall back into behind the scenes and not do the things that we were expecting him to do. And I feel like those two players are going to be the players that let the Knicks down severely in this series. And it's only because Mobley and Allen are better offensive players than both Hartenstein, and Mitchell Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like those
They
two.
are.
I feel like
Yeah.
everyone else is going to do what they're supposed to do. Sometimes RJ is hit or miss, but I feel like those two guys are going to probably let you down.
Well, you've kind of been the segue king
Sorry.
tonight. So, no, which is a good thing because I wanted to bring up RJ Barrett, who we talked about a lot this year, obviously, and both the good and the bad. And the reasons we have certain, I think we all are fans of RJ Barrett and we all want it to succeed. And we all think he has the demeanor to be a really, really good player for this team. But his biggest thing has always been inconsistency, right? Like he can have a great game and the next game and be terrible. And it's not only in game to game, sometimes it's quarter to quarter or half to half, where he starts out like crap and then the second half he comes on and he plays great. Is he the X factor for the Knicks? I'm gonna start. I kind of think he is. I think if RJ Barrett plays to the best of his ability, if we finally get that couple of games, breakout series from him, I think the Knicks are going to win this series. But it really does. I think it really does ride with him and how he plays. We need to see him at his best. I'm not saying he needs to score average like 30 or 35, but he needs to be that consistent guy. And just from knowing and watching him play, and we know he comes up in big moments. Well, there's no bigger moment than the playoffs. So I feel like if he brings his A game, the Knicks will win the series in 5 or 6, maybe. I know 5 might seem short to you guys, but I think that's. I look at both teams talent wise. I think the Cavs are very top heavy talent wise, and I think the Knicks are more spread out. They have a much better. I think they have a really good bench. I think they have a better bench of the two teams. So that's my opinion. Craig, I'll start with you this time. RJ Barrett, X factor or just another piece?
No, I agree. I think he is the X factor. It's just that he's maddening to watch at times. And if he starts off like he started off in that Atlanta series 2 years ago, it's going to be a quick out, right? He has to play well in order for the Knicks to win. It's just simple because he would be that third star, right? That mid, what they call it, the mid three.
Mid-three.
He has to play like well for them to be good because you already know what Brunson's going to do, right? But then if Okoro is back, they're probably going to shift Okoro to Brunson. That turns into a nightmare. So they're going to be blitzing Randall if he's playing and Brunson if he's playing. You have to trust RJ to be able to hit open shots or be a really good cutter. And he's proven that he's not a good jump shooter. He's proven that he doesn't have a mid-range game. He's proven that he doesn't have a post game. And that's the maddening part about him sometimes. It's just like you want him to be good. You know he can be good. But then sometimes it's like his limitations are what's frustrating to watch as a fan at least. So I know it has to be frustrating for him. His mind is telling him to do something his body just can't do. And you can see him out there thinking way too much. And to answer your question, he has to be the X factor. He has to play above average for this team to be successful. So yes, he is the X factor.
All right, Ty, I gave mine. So your opinion?
RJ is definitely the X factor. I mean, because every team that is successful has a big three of something. Whether it's it's always been my belief. Since watching this game for a long time, you have to have 3 significant players of position. Whatever their specialty is, I think they need to be at least the top 10 at their position, which I know none of the Knicks are. But that's the way to success and to get out. And I'm going to say that's success to win a championship is that you got to have at least 3 talents that could be in the top 10 at their position, or specialty at their position, whichever way you want to scribble it down. But here's the thing for me with RJ. I don't think RJ has to be necessarily that scorer, that guy who's that third lethal scorer on the Knicks. I think what RJ needs to do is make sure his decisions are very precise. When if you're going to make a play for the ball, if you're going to score the best way you are capable of scoring and don't do nothing beyond your scope. I think that helps him out. Another thing that he could do is just rebound the damn ball. Where we need him to be is rugged. I don't think you need RJ to be the guy who's going to get you, 35 points in a series. That's the part I think they don't need from him. I think they need a guy who can give them say he can give a solid 19 points, he can give you a solid 8 rebounds and a solid 6 to 7 assists, and play some okay defense at least to show a presence on the defensive end, that will leverage out anything that Cleveland has as a third option. See, that's the whole thing about it. You don't need to be a prolific 30-point scorer. And I think that's what he's missing a little bit, is that he's wired to believe he has to be the man on a team, the straw that stirs the drink as far as scoring-wise. And I'm telling you, 18 to 19 points solid with pretty decent efficiency. Hit your free throws, hit the boards, distribute the rock, and just don't do anything dumb. I mean, literally, that's what it really comes down to. Don't make a dumb mistake that's going to cost your team. I think he tends to go into the paint with no plan sometimes. It's like, my athleticism is better than, and it's like, dude, your wiring does not match your body. I've said this off camera. Your wiring doesn't match your skill set, which, I understand. When you've been playing at the level he's been playing throughout high school, he's been the best player. Coming in, he's one of the top, recruited players. Yeah, you're better than 99% of the guys you're playing with when you're in high school. You're kind of at an elite level of probably at least 85% of the players in college. You come to the NBA and then within your draft class and anything after that, now all of a sudden the playing field is so level at that point. You're not going to be able to out physical anybody. You're not going to be able to out really think a lot of players that are at an elite level. So now you have to rely on what you're great at, which is your physicality and finding a way to get to your spot without screwing up. That's really what it comes down to with RJ. As much as people dog him, I think he's one of the strongest players in the league. I think he has a good skill set. It's not like his skills are bad. He needs to adapt to an old man game. Not the young man's game. You're not T-Mac. You're more like Big Mac. You're not Harden. You're not none of these guys with the skill sets. Your dribble package is sus. I'm just saying, and this is not dogging RJ as much as it's like, dude, you can do a lot of great things on the court that don't involve you trying to look like the superior athlete. If you do those things very well, you can beat Chris Middleton. I'm just saying, Chris Middleton's not, wowing anybody in the highlight reel. Like I said, who's ever said, go to YouTube and see Chris Middleton's highlights? Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever. Go watch that guy's highlights. Did you see those? Nobody ever said that. But you know what? He has a ring. He has a ring and he's an Olympian. He's an Olympic medalist. See, sometimes you got to dumb down your game a little bit for the benefit of winning, more so than the benefit of getting highlight reels. We've seen RJ pull off some dunks, so we're like, RJ, come on. You probably wouldn't get that over on me, let alone somebody in the NBA, because you're lifting off at the foul line. It's like, dude, you don't have that package. You got to buy that package in NBA 2K23. I get the extra shoes and the shoe boosters. You might do that to him. But in all honesty, he needs to just be a physical presence on the board, attack with an intent to score, not an intent to flex, not an intent to get fouled. You do those things, I think RJ levels out this team and they can win. So he is the X factor. I don't think that he's the X factor with needing to score 35 points. It's just be efficient at what you do. Really good. And I do question that about him, whether or not he's listening to himself or he's listening to what the team needs. I think that's a good question about RJ.
Yeah, we saw a little bit at when he was a rookie, when he had a little bit more of a role in handling the ball and controlling the ball. I always felt better when he had the ball because I felt like he made good decisions.
Yes, he does.
So that's something I'd like to see him focus on a little as well. You know what? If Randall's going to score and if he's healthy and going to score and Brunson, is going to get his points, try and be that. Obviously, he's not Scottie Pippen, but try and be that kind of player, right?
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Get some of their production. I remember an old Slam magazine back in the day where one of the quotes was Scottie fills the stat sheet like water. That's all he has to be.
That's all he had to do.
I agree. You're right. That's why I thought of him, because I was like, obviously Scottie Pippen was on another level, at that. But be that kind of a guy, right? Like pick your spots where you need to score points. Draw and kick to open guys. He's pretty good at that. He is pretty good at finding the open man when he drives. So those kinds of things. And focus on, like you mentioned before, focus on rebounding a little bit, get closer to the basket, use your size. He did a little bit more of that since Randall's been out. So we've seen a little bit of it, so we know it's there. But just be a little more cerebral, right? I feel like he's always trying to prove. I feel like this season, a lot of times he's trying to prove the contract in one season, right? Like he was trying to be like, no, they just paid me. I have to be this guy instead of just playing basketball. Like, and I think that's where his value will be. So, he's definitely the X factor. Like I said, if he plays well, I think they're going to win this series. And especially, if Randall's out, he's going to have to play well, period, because they won't have enough without him. So if Randall can't play, unless the first 2 games, whatever, they're going to need his production. But I mentioned the bench before. So let's talk about it. I quickly, obviously, is the lead guy off the bench when you think about it. Again, another guy like Obi who plays better as a starter. We talked about this a little last week when we did the 6th man of the year breakdown. So it's a very strange dynamic. Going to have him back on the bench. I'm sure if Randall can go, he probably will go back to the bench. I don't think they're going to start him over Grimes because Grimes played so well towards the end of the year as well. So he's that spark plug guy. Obviously, Obi again, better as a starter, but they're going to need him to play like he's starting. I guess the best way for me to put it. Anyone else off the bench you're looking at as maybe a key factor that outside of those 2 guys? I'll start with you, Ty. Anyone else?
Well, unfortunately, there's not a long list of guys coming off the bench that we could say, oh, well, if that dude just comes in. I guess the immediate guy you got to go with is Josh Hart. He's just been everything for the Knicks. Literally, he's not 6th man of the year, but he's the New York Knicks 6th man of the year candidate. Over quickly. This guy's production, and the one thing he's starting to worry me a little bit is these texts that he's getting to us in. It's like, he's got a little Randallitis. It's like, dude, you're in the playoffs. Stop arguing with the refs. There's no need. You're already in the playoffs. What are you arguing about? You're arguing about nothing at this point. This is just Mitchology at this point. You don't need to argue with refs when you've already made it to where the team needs to go. Pump the brakes. I know you're a competitor, which we all understand in the heat of the moment, but he needs to just pump the brakes. But he's going to be so heavily relied upon to be that guy that comes in when things get crazy and set the table and make them okay. Because his production has just been I don't even know what his production is. It's not like he's like coming out like Josh Hart scoring 45 points off the bench. It's probably more like 8, and 7 points and, a couple steals here. But the impact of what he does coming into the game is like a 35-point swing when he comes in. He's like literally the dude that comes in and he kind of settles everything. You can't get a bucket. This dude drives it down the full court. He scores. He hits timely threes. He's just Mr. Everything. So if I had to pick somebody, we know what Quickly is going to do. We know what Obi's relies on minutes. Josh Hart is the most important Knick. Probably the most important Knick. I know that's kind of crazy to even say that, but he's probably the most important Knick come playoff time. I think he is. We know what RJ we want him to do. We know what we are scared that Randall may not do. We know we are scared of what Brunson may get taken away from doing because of putting an athletic guy like Okoro on him, which I'm a little less worried about, to be honest, because Brunson is he's a beast. I just think he figures it out. He jukes everybody with that the hezzies and the stop in the middle of the lane and turn around and pirouette and hit a bucket. But Josh Hart's production, he just is I don't know. He's one of those guys. Thibodeau had said, I don't know the exact quote, but he says only he knows that he impacts winning. Basically, and every team he goes on, he gives. He was in New Orleans and they were giving him a standing ovation, and you would have thought like he was Zion. His production was Zion. Well, that was Zion's giving him now. That's beignet biscuit, at this point. But You know, he's with the rookie hazing. They said bring the donuts. You know, he's like okay. We have no problem being hazed for Zion. But needless to say, I think Josh Hart is definitely that dude that he might be the. We talk about RJ being an X factor. He might be even more of an X factor in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we're gonna touch a little bit on Zion later. I'm glad you brought him up, but we'll talk a little bit about Zion Williamson in a few minutes. Craig, same to you. Anyone else on the Knicks bench that you think maybe not will, but could play important minutes if they need him to?
It all starts and ends with Emmanuel quickly, in my opinion, because now he has to live up to what he's done throughout the last 75% of the season. He has to live up to that. And again, I hate to be like pessimistic Pete here, but someone on that bench is going to let you down. I cannot believe I'm acting like this, but I feel like Ty said, you said earlier, there's no pressure on the Knicks, in my opinion, to win the series. And unless your name is Stephen A. Smith, there's no pressure to win the series for them because they're the lesser seed. However, with that being said, someone's going to let you down on that bench. Someone's not going to play up to the standard in which they played to help you get to where you are now. And that's what I fear the most. The 1, 2, or 3 people who've been playing extremely well are going to let you down. And it's going to happen at one time. It's going to be a collapse. I'm being honest. I don't know why I have this level of pessimism right now.
Like
right?
a 50-year player.
I just feel it. But the only saving grace is that the pressure is not on them. The pressure, like you said, Todd, is on Donovan. And now, again, I know I don't want to contradict what I said earlier. Obviously, there's pressure both ways, but from the outside looking in, as a media member or prognosticator, there's really no pressure on the Knicks, right? Because they were the lower seed, right? So
Right.
If they lose, they lose, and no one's going to care because they're the Knicks and people expect them to lose.
That's true.
I just feel like someone's going to let you down off that bench. That's all. I don't know why I have that feeling, but I think it's going to be one of those series. No,
I mean it's fair. It's definitely a fair take, and it's something I think it might be in the back of all of our minds because again we are Knicks fans and we're conditioned to feel this way. So I think that's definitely a fair
That's
take.
who would win. Craig said.
Yeah, and the thing is with Quickly too, like he's been great, but he has a tendency to have those terrible games, right?
He can turn into J.R. Smith and John Starks very quickly.
Yeah,
shoot you out of the game.
Yes, he can do that. So you hope. And again, we don't think they have pressure, but players are going to feel it, especially the guys who haven't been in the playoffs much in their career and don't understand the intensity level changes. And you have to be at the top of your game for at least 4 games, possibly more every series. So it's very much for them. It's going to be pressure filled. There's one guy on the bench though who I don't worry about if he has to come in, and that's McBride. He's the guy for some reason that, again, maybe it's the football player in me because he was a football player and I can relate to football players. We have a different mentality. We're wired differently. Like, every time I watch him play, it doesn't matter what's going on. I feel like he's always in control. He always knows what he has to do. He might not always do it, but I feel like he's just a guy that if they need minutes and they need someone to say, you know what, if Mitchell's having one of those fantastic games and they want to say, we need someone to slow him down, get out there, do what you got to do your defense thing. I think he can do that. So he's the one guy on the bench that might not get a lot of playing time, but if he's called upon, I feel like he's the guy. He's a guy that could come in and give the Knicks really solid minutes, and he'll be a difference in this series for them if he's called upon it and if needed. So I guess because the series starts on Saturday, we'll go around now. We'll talk about we'll predict. We'll do our predictions. So, Craig, I'll start with you. Who wins the series and how many games?
Cleveland in 6.
Okay. Ty, what about you?
I'm going to be a complete homer here. Because I have to have faith. It's the 50th anniversary. No, I'm not going to go 7. I think they're not. Do I want to say that? Oh, I'm going to jump out the window. Knicks in 5. I'm going to jump out the window on this one. The reason why I'm jumping out, why I'm just opening the window, because you just got to go all out the window. The Knicks have handled them all season.
They have.
Besides
the first game, yes.
And they've been very confident. You know, they're both two defensive teams. I just don't see, and this is what I'm explaining with my 5. I don't know who else on Cleveland has another level to go to, because we have not seen Garland at all.
He's the guy.
We have not seen him in any of these outings. He's come to the Garden, and I excused away one of the Knicks wins in the Garden as the Cavs. I said, well, the Cavs are coming off of I think they played in Brooklyn the night before, and I'm like, I'm not going to give that a quality win, because we've been talking about quality wins all year. The first winning streak of the Knicks with 8 games, I'm like, I'm not buying that. Look who wasn't out. Look who was out. Look who wasn't out. But what has been consistent about the Knicks is 2 teams they played very well, and that's Boston and Cleveland. Those teams, and those are never games where the Knicks have rolled over and died. And they've won, and they have the edge in both those series. Can you believe that? I wouldn't say this if this was Boston. It's just because I don't think Cleveland has enough experience. I think that can factor in. I think if the Knicks come out and punch them in the mouth the first game and win, I think they can take it in 5. That's just my opinion. I mean, they might get swept after I've said this, which is still on the table. They might get swept, but
yes, it is.
It's always on the table because Julius. I don't trust you. I'm going to keep it a buck. I just don't trust you mentally, bro. I hope that I'm completely wrong, but I don't know. I picture what happened when Manuel quickly came in against Boston, because those were games we should have never won that game in Boston.
That's true.
Because I looked at that game, I'm like, just put the L on, put the James Todd Smith on that game. I'm like, this is an L. Why are we even watching this? And Quick came out and was like, nah, bang, we came here to play. And ever since that game, I've always said, well, let's see. I think they have just been different. I've said this before about them. It's not like
they have.
I'm just saying I would have never believed it until I saw what Josh Hart did. And I don't know. I know people say the playoffs is different. Well, Cleveland hasn't been in the playoffs. That's my kickback. Cleveland hasn't been in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell's been in the playoffs. So this Cavs team, what are they going to ramp up to? What are they going to ramp up to? I mean, literally, we said if Mitch plays to his ability, they can own that series. It comes down to the front court. I absolutely agree with that. But their advantage is a guy was a cartoon character, Afro Samurai. That's their advantage. If he outplays him, I don't see where the Okoro's not gonna. He's not gonna score. I mean, what is he? He's a stopper.
Right. Whatever offense they get from him would be gravy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't see that guy, the second guy that I go, Knicks need to worry about him. But
it's
Knicks that if you don't want Brunson going off, you don't want Quentin Grimes to go off, you don't want Quickly to go off. RJ's capable when engaged of going off. Randall, if he keeps his noodle in the bowl, is capable of exploding on the team. So the Knicks got at least 3 dudes that are capable of throwing up 40-point games in a night. And not even, I mean, that's we always underplay our team because they sucked. It's just been putrid. I mean, downright putrid. But then I go and look and say, well, what if they're not putrid this year? What if they play to their potential? Is Cleveland better than them if they play to their potential? And I don't think Cleveland's better than them.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, they do. I mean, obviously Garland's the guy I'm looking at. If he comes up big and plays well, Mobley can score too. I mean, these guys can do it if they're called upon. LeVert's kind of a scary guy for me.
Yeah, he's the guy, the X factor on that team, in my opinion.
LeVert's kind of a scary guy for me. I could see him coming up big, but yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say it's gonna go 7, and I'll pick the Knicks to win in 7.
Wow.
Only because and the reason I'm saying it is because I would like nothing more than if they're gonna win it than to win it in Cleveland. Like that's what I want. I want them to win it on their court, with a Brunson or an RJ3 because he can't shoot threes, and RJ3 under 10 seconds, and then something crazy like Randall actually getting a defensive stop to win the game or something like that in Game 7, just to have all these things culminate in a Knicks win. I think would be fantastic. I definitely can see Cleveland obviously winning. I can see Cleveland winning in 5. I don't think there'll be a sweep either way. I think it could be a very competitive series. That's why I'm saying 7 as well. I just have a feeling I need to see Donovan Mitchell be that guy in the playoffs. Like I need to see him. I know in the bubble he had a moment and he was great in Utah, but I don't count the bubble at all. Really, because there was no one there watching them. It was like an open scrimmage.
Yeah,
These guys were averaging like 55 points a game. It was ridiculous. Some crazy nonsense going on. So I don't count that series. So I need to see him do this when it counts. And yes, he's the best player in the series. I will say that Brunson's close now. I think it's closer than I thought it was at the beginning of the year. But I do think when you add athleticism into the mix, that puts Mitchell higher because he can just do things athletically that Brunson can't. So I think that's why I would say I'd give him the edge. The most talented player in the series, I do think, is Evan Mobley. Right? So like I feel like they have the edge there, but he's still growing into his body. He may not be there yet. But I don't know. This Brunson just makes you want to believe, right? Like he's that kind of guy that makes you believe that they can win.
Go ahead, Craig. I'll ask that after you.
I'll just keep it quick. I almost want them to. I want even if they lose in 5 or 6. That's like I said, if they lose in 6. I want every game to come down to the last possession in which the Knicks play well and they lose. Now that's going to hurt in the short run, like in the short term, but in the long term, the more the Knicks play like this, right? Even losing, I know there's no moral victories, but you want that one star or that one impact player to say, you know what, I'm that missing piece that can get them over the hump. So on one end, obviously as a fan, I want them to win. But if they keep showing out like this, right? At some point, someone's got to say, and I'm only quoting Windhurst now. He says eventually someone's going to go there, or someone's going to force their way there. So I want in the short term for them to lose. But again, that sounds really weird.
No, I know what you're saying.
It's not a seasoned Knicks fan, Greg. That's what
yeah.
But just want to say, you know what? I can help them. And we haven't. And when's the last time we've seen something like that? Melo, right? And when Windhurst isn't going to pull stuff out of his butt, if he's hearing,
I'll see if he does anyway. But go on.
I think you guys know where I'm going with that. You know, it's kind of works on a short term and a long term. That's just
I wanted that.
wishful thinking.
I wanted that. Yeah, I wanted that to happen though, but for not to make the playoffs. That was my whole thing because before they traded for Hart, like I wanted them to be good this year, compete, but still not make the playoffs, get a pick, and then be able to draft in the lottery. But obviously that didn't happen. So no, but I understand what you're saying. I do think. And there's also value in that, right? Like there's value in these young guys getting playoff experience and learning how to win in the playoffs. That's really what the next step for this team is winning in the playoffs. They've proven they weren't a great regular season team, but they're a winning regular season team now. So that's something they could check the box on. But the next step is winning in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy. It's not as crazy a thing as you're thinking, Craig. I'm with you there. Ty, you were going to say something. So what?
Yeah,
let's hear it.
2 piggybacks. The first piggyback is what you said about Windhorst. Actually, Ramona Shelburne also stated that players now around the league.
That tweet disappeared.
Yeah, I watched her put that video with Ian Begley, and she touched on it. Like kind of like tongue in cheek, like, oh no, players want there's certain players, she said, that know that the league knows would want to play in New York. It's just not for everybody, but there's certain players that are like, she said, take note of the players that come in and play great in New York. They want to be here. That's what, soft quote of what she said. The other thing I was going to ask was, does Cleveland have anyone equivalent to Rudy Gobert on their team when you think about what Gobert brought to the table, DPOY, several, multiple times, the rebounding factor, the intimidation factor, because a lot of what you see with Brunson is a lot of the penetration that that's what he does in the game. What's up, Joe? And you got that's part of Brunson's game. Do you feel like Cleveland has a Rudy Gobert type on the floor? And the reason why I'm saying that because we got to go back to revisionist history, but we got to go back to when Brunson had whoever he had. What he had? Tim Hardaway Jr. He had Tim Hardaway Jr. I think that was all he had that year when last year when Luka went down.
Last year, yeah.
So
Finney Smith, those guys.
Yeah, so role players, and I mean, when you look at the Knicks' talent, I think the Knicks don't have just necessarily just guys that are role players. They have guys with more potential than just being a role player. If I wanted to assess them fairly, Quentin Grimes can be so much more than just a guy you come in and shoot shots. He has a lot of ability. But my point is that when they played against Gobert and the Utah Jazz that year with Donovan Mitchell, Brunson killed him. He killed him. And Utah had the better talent on the floor the whole entire time. And he did more with less. That's what I'm saying. And Donovan Mitchell is that dude. He's been burning Donovan for a while now. It's not like, we got a sample size like, we don't know what he's going to do against him in the playoffs. He's proven in the playoffs with having a better team to go against that he has basically outplayed Donovan Mitchell. So that's why I'm like, when I say about Cleveland losing in 5, I think it's very possible because I think Utah lost in 5 against the Mavs. When Brunson had less talent, was it 5 or 6? Who's on Utah? Julius Randle better than anybody that was on Dallas. When you think about it, that was out during the time when Luka wasn't there.
Yeah,
better than anybody on all of Dallas's whole entire team. We will question Brunson from last year. That's the one he might not be better than. RJ probably is better than who you want. Tim Hardaway Jr. You want RJ? Do you want Manuel Quickly or do you want Tim Hardaway Jr.? The Knicks have way more talent with this team. That's what, and I think Cleveland doesn't have. They have upside, but not maybe established talent that can win them a series. That's why I like the Knicks' chance. I don't think they have a Gobert on the team that can stop Brunson because Gobert couldn't stop Brunson. One of the best players in the playoffs was he juked him. He juked the defensive player of the year, 2-time defensive player. I like our chances. If Julius is the only factor that makes me a little worried.
Yeah, I don't. As good as Jared Allen is, and as Evan Mobley is a tremendous defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he would be. I don't know what their scheme's going to be like. If it were me, I'd be covering. I'd have Okoro on Brunson, and then I'd have Mobley helping on him if he gets past him. Like that would be my decision. And say, get this guy to have to pass the ball all the time. That's the only time I'm a little bit worried with Brunson because obviously his better talent is scoring. So I'm more worried if he has to become a passer. I don't know what exactly he'll bring in that regard. But I agree with you. This guy all season has taken every challenge and just went right at the guy or right at the player, right at the scheme, and he's figured it out. So I feel better about it now than I did earlier in the year when I was kind of like, I don't know, this guy when teams defend him, he had a couple of games where it actually kind of diminished his impact. Mm-hmm. So it's a very and as we know in the playoffs, you're playing the same team every game. So you're going to have the coaches are going to adjust, and how do you adjust to that? And that's the one place that Thibodeau to me kind of lacks a little bit in adjustments.
Who's the better coach in this series? I was going to ask that.
If you listen to Cleveland radio, I saw a clip where one of their guys, Cleveland ESPN, whatever local affiliate it is, said the Knicks have the better coach. I kind of side-eyed that. I'm like, Yeah, in terms of resume, he may be the better coach, but is he the better coach in terms of adjusting? Like he's
Has
not
he,
just.
has he been? I mean, what we've seen recently. I mean, we don't know if we can give him credit, so we got to give him credit for
No, we
both
got
winning
it.
and losing. For both winning and losing.
Yeah.
I'd be the quick one to say somebody else is making the calls, but I don't want to say that to him. I'm just saying if we take Thibodeau for what we've seen recently, he's been coaching his arse off, literally. And when I say that, this is somebody who don't even like the guy. If they fired him tomorrow, I'd still do a cartwheel. So it's not like I'm in love with the guy whatsoever. However, the Knicks, I don't know if he let off the reins or whatever he did, or gave the control of the offense to someone else. The Knicks are like one of the best offensive teams in the league. That's just for Tom Thibodeau. I mean, I don't buy it. No, I think somebody else is making the call.
Well, that's
Don't get me
yeah.
wrong. I'm just saying, if he relies on someone else to do the play calling on the offense, say he gave it to someone, that's fine. I don't care about it. I'm just saying the Knicks offense does not suck. It's like I think it was like top 3 offensive rating or something like that. I mean, that's impressive. I don't know who's making the calls. Like I said, I don't want to go Bickerstaff is in Cleveland?
Yeah,
I don't want to say Bickerstaff is better than Tom. I mean, maybe Tom and Brian is better than Bickerstaff. I mean, let's say they're a law firm right now. Then those two were partnered up and figured out how the offense should run. But the Knicks offense is not, I mean, for a team that doesn't shoot threes a lot, greatly, the Knicks are one of the best offensive teams. So I don't know who's the better coach at this point, because 6 months ago, I'd have told you that Tom Thibodeau's not better than no one. I've been on record saying that. I was like, Eric knows my debate is. I was like, who is he really better than? I've said this a million times. Like, who can he outcoach? And right now, the way the Knicks have been playing, they've been outcoaching a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been a little different towards the end of the year, and it's the one time I've actually said he actually played to the strength of his personnel. When Randall's been out, he's kind of let the young guys run and gun and try and push the ball at every chance they get, pushing it up the floor. He's been that guy. And again, you're right. I don't know if he was like nudged to do it, and the coaching, like Johnny Bryant was like, no, we need to let these guys be who they are. And, yeah, like let them do what they do best. Because it wasn't definitely much more exciting brand of basketball to watch. And I mean, we saw Obi thrive, and you had these guys running the floor doing what they do best. So, yeah, I mean, you got to give him credit. He's the head coach, so you have to give him credit whether it was his decision or it was his decision to let the assistants make the decision. It falls at his feet. So
I definitely I think Quickly has been more of a Johnny Bryant project. When I look at him, maybe a little Bronson too. I think he's been known to work with guards. I mean, because Quickly has calmed down. This version of Emmanuel Quickly is a very mature, non-Chucky. I put it on here. He was a Chucky 4, 5, and 6, the movies. For the longest time, just a terrible decision maker. And he actually looks like a basketball player now. He looks like someone, he's not going to ever be a point guard, but someone has had a good impact on him to say, pump your brakes, dude. This is what you can be very good at. And they've given him the confidence to go out and execute it. He looks great doing it. So
he's not taking the 35-foot threes. That's what he's not doing.
But under Tom told him to shoot whatever he wanted.
Yeah, I know.
He said, he's so great in practice. He can take whatever shot. And it's like, dude, he's not Steph. He's not Clay. You don't have him shooting those ridiculous launch shot puts he was doing. So someone has reeled him in to be part of a team concept more so. I mean, he's done some pocket passes that have impressed me. So, we've seen a little bit different. I don't think it's Tom. I mean, I'm just going to be real, but I'm saying overall credit. We gave him discredit when he was terrible, so I'm giving him credit now. I think the Knicks got the edge coaching-wise. It's strange enough, strange things.
What's going on here?
Yeah, it's like Netflix series.
It's the Twilight Zone over here. What's going on?
Tom's a better coach, but Tom and whoever is my buddy doll is the better coach, making the Knicks look damn good right now.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that they might have the edge now. which I never would have said before, but he has shown like you said, whether it's him or not, he has shown the ability to kind of shift his style of play. And I don't think it's coincidental that it's been when Randall has been out. I think that's a huge part of the reason behind it. But hey, it's been working. And even if that's the case, like now you can play two styles, right? You can play either style if you need to.
Yeah.
And that I think is just gives you options. Makes you a more dangerous team. When you have options to play different styles of offensive basketball, it's been the end of the season has been fun to watch, just like last season was. It's just been a really fun time to watch the team gel together and the young guys just to play, running up and down the court. I mean, that's the fun part of basketball. So it's been great to see that. Kicks off on Saturday, right? Game 1 is Saturday night at 6:00. Kind of a weird time.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's a weird time. So this is a bit of a fun question, but I want to throw it out there. Do you guys have any special superstitions or any special foods you eat during the playoffs, or any kind of beer you might drink or alcohol you might specifically have for the playoffs? Craig, I'll start with you.
Bourbon, just to take the edge off, because I'll be very anxious. So yeah, bourbon.
Any special kind of bourbon? Do you like
Whatever.
say like food, whatever you have?
Whatever's open. If I need to probably let go, open up one of those bottles of Sagamore that I have. But whatever is open. Right now I got some Wild Turkey Rye 101 open, so I'll probably be sipping on that.
I have a Wild Turkey story. I can tell you guys.
Oh boy.
The wild part is very true. Like the wild part is very, very true. Ty, what about you? Do you have any superstitions, any things you do for the playoffs, any beer, food, combo?
I am probably, as much as people might not, I am like the worst. This does nothing good for my blood pressure. Does nothing good for my anxiety. I have, goodness gracious, this is, I'm probably more of the Larry Brown of everybody when it comes to basketball. Like, I'm the person that believes you play the right way, and I'm also miserable. I'm like the most miserable person to watch a Nick game probably with, and you'll probably see me turn the television a couple times or peep in to watch the score because it's just it just takes me to the most miserable point of my life because I love basketball. It's in my blood. It's everything to me, just about. When we talk about the top things I love doing and watching and enjoying, I probably don't enjoy it. I'm probably the most miserable watching basketball person, especially when it's my team involved, because I'm probably gonna have the volume down if it's not on MSG. That's one thing. So that's gonna be a tradition. I'm gonna mute the television.
Do you put on the radio though, then, or is it? I think there's a delay, so that might be a little.
I don't know. I probably be talking to you guys or whatever, or chiming in about it. Right. Kind of do a watch along as therapeutic. I've been known to turn off when I know the team is. I've been watching this game way too damn long. It's probably the problem, but I'll turn the game off in the fourth quarter because I'm like, them not winning. I'll know it. I just get the vibe. I'm like, 4 or 5 minutes. It's getting to that point. I'm like, they're not going to win. I'll just check out and say I'll wait for the next game. Yeah, I probably don't want to drink nothing. I probably become an alcoholic. There's no way I should be mixing alcohol and the Knicks. There is no way. You find little white rock on the ground, you might just smoke that damn thing watching them. It's just not good. It does nothing good for my psyche. It's not good. I don't do this well. I know I don't.
Yeah, I used to, when I was younger, I used to get like whether it's NFL playoffs or NBA playoffs or any kind of big series I had to watch, I would get I'd buy like pizza and wings and like set up everything and just eat, and then I'd either buy my favorite beer, or back then I used to drink vodka more than I do now. So I'd have vodka. I'd be making martinis. Like, you don't drink martinis in sports, but I would drink martinis watching sports. I would just have a good time with it all. But as I've gotten older, I don't do that as much. I tend to focus. I just kind of focus on the game. But I will say this: if I'm home, I can't be bothered. Like, don't bother me. Don't come near me. I'm watching the game. I don't care if the house is on fire or like I don't care. Leave me in my box. Let me watch.
Yeah.
Because I'm super focused, and any kind of distraction just pisses me off. So I'm like, just leave me alone to watch the game. Yeah, just so bad. Uh, and there is, when I played football, I mean, whatever, I don't care. I can say this. I had a specific kind of underwear I would wear during big games. So,
Wow.
What I'll do is I'll wear whatever. If I wear game one and they win, then I'll wear it again. Like I will keep that pair of underwear. Just watching the game, not like the whole day. I'll just put it on for the game and watch the game, and then I'll take it off later. So I know it's a little strange. I know it's a little weird, but I believe in stuff like that. So it's being an athlete. You start believing. Athletes are very superstitious people, so we start believing in certain things like that. So that's what I do. I just like to have fun with it, a little bit more fun with it, though.
But I do wear. The one thing I will say, I do wear my Knick hat. That is the one tradition. Whatever, if it's the Yankees, I'm a big Yankee fan.
Right.
And Nick, obviously, I'll wear a hat. That's the thing. I walk around all day with the damn hat on, and I would say when I know they suck, I turn the hat backwards so you figure out the team after I'm gone that I'm cheering for when they're terrible. But I still always rock. You ever see me? I'm gonna have a New York something on as far as whatever sports team I follow. But during this time, I'm gonna have basically a rally hat on, some sort of Knick hat until they either win or lose, at all. So that's the way. That's the little superstition I got.
Yeah, Craig, I saw you nod your head before when I was talking about I can't be bothered. You gotta leave me alone. Are you like that too?
Yeah, like I'm a mixture of both of you guys. Like Ty, like I agree. Like for me, I might not even turn the game on Saturday. I might just follow along the group chat, and if it's going well,
Yeah.
I might peek in. But if I hear a whole bunch of nonsense, I'll just won't even watch because I know what's going to happen if they're doing well, right? Because notifications on Twitter pop up too from like I'll look at the notifications, and then that turns into whatever. It turns into anxiety, and I just don't want to deal with it. So I might even watch the game, to be honest, on Saturday. This is hard, man. And then, like you said, Eric, I don't want to be bothered either.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want it's hard to watch a Knicks game or any team that you enjoy that's not the home team at home, right? Because you got this added these eyes on you. So I don't want I'll just put it on. I might have it on my phone and just kind of peek in every once in a while. But no, it's very hard unless you're like a Boston fan or a team that's winning. It's very hard to tune in to watch your team.
I think
too much anxiety.
I agree. I do think it probably won't be this year, but I do think if the Knicks make the finals in our lifetime anytime soon, we're gonna have to get together and watch some.
Oh, absolutely.
Together. I think that would be fun.
I don't even know what kind of emotion I would have. Literally,
right? Not even winning it, right? Just making it.
But no, if they won, I have no idea what that's going to do to my life. I have no idea.
I say the same thing. I have no idea.
For some people, that might sound like silly. Like, it's, I know how Chicago, Cubs fans, everybody.
Yeah.
The whole state kind of shut down. And they're like, it's just the most ridiculous thing. Oh, he said he kidded Joe. The way that pizza looked, Joe, you can bring that.
Seriously, man.
You might got those some chicken off of me. I don't do the pork. I don't do the pork and the beef. You want to do veggie and chicken, bro? I am in those pizza. That dude got some.
Right? It does. It's fantastic.
YouTube, Joe. YouTube. I keep telling you. But I digress because food. I'm always going to digress. But I wouldn't know what I would do if the Knicks won the championship. What kind of celebration? I mean, that would just be the most ridiculous thing for all of us who've been in this misery pool for how many years? And to see that was it Champion Canyon or whatever?
Yeah, Canyon Heroes. Yeah.
Canyon Heroes. Can you imagine how lit New York would be? and how lit all the fans that were in hiding throughout the rest of the country that are Knicks fans that you now see coming out. They go, "Wow, I never knew there's so many Knicks fans." Yeah, dude, because we were hiding. What are you talking about? We've been terrible. You don't come out and break out your gear in the middle of Atlanta, or
It's totally
Minnesota.
true.
You can't go out because we were an embarrassment. And now, we thought Ewing, the year with the Ewing and playing against Houston was an option. Obviously we lost on that. So we've been a little bit to the hill a little bit, but near the top with the Houston series, and then fell short obviously with San Antonio. But the first whoever wins a title here, and we've talked about this for the longest time, and we're talking about the superstars looking in on the Knicks. You can win a ring here. It's just this theory when you think about it. It would blow. Tell all Knicks fans who are listening to this or may listen to it another time, it would blow your collective mind to watch the Knicks win a championship. I don't care who you are as a Knicks fan, how old you are, how young you are. It is such a foreign thought to the point that I don't know what New York would do if that ever happened.
I agree. I mean, that's the one thing. Both, as you guys know, I'm also a New York Jets fan. So either one of those teams winning, like the Jets winning the Super Bowl, the Knicks, you guys might not hear from me for days. And might find me like on a corner somewhere, but naked with a poncho on or something. I have no idea what the hell I'm gonna do. Either of my teams win a championship. Like it's such a foreign thought for me that I don't even consider the possibility for either team to win. But man, if that happens again, oh man, I am going to have so much fun. I have no idea. And it's crazy that I think like something that I have really nothing to do with can impact me like this.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the truth, man. I swear, I have no idea what I would do. I just like I said, even making it now, like even them getting there, either team, the Jets making the Super Bowl or the Knicks making the finals again, I would be ecstatic just to have that experience again. Like I remember 94 and obviously 99. 94 was expected. 99 was a complete shock. So that was even such a fun ride. That would be like this year. If they were to go this year, I'd be completely shocked. Like if they made the finals this year. So, Craig, being the younger of the three of us, what about you? If the Knicks were to win a championship, what would you do?
I'm torn between going to work for like an hour, just wearing every Knick thing I can and say, hey, I'm coming to work just so I can show this off and I'm taking the rest of the day off, or just not going to work at all. Like, hey, calling my manager or my supervisor, like, hey, I'm not coming in. Sorry, tomorrow, whatever day. No. I don't know, man. Like, it would be. I'm not gonna lie. I'd probably cry. Like, I'm not even joking. I probably would cry.
Yeah.
I mean, 25 years almost is a long time. I mean, for me,
add another 25 to that.
Yeah,
for most other fans, because it's been 50
like
years.
I'll even put my Stephen A. Smith hat on for a second. He hasn't seen. How old was he when they won in '73? Was he even born yet, or?
Oh, he was.
He was a couple years old or whatever.
I was just born when I'm 50. It's 50-year anniversary. So, and Steven's a little older than me. So
yeah, he's 55.
So he was old enough to possibly to seen it, right, and to probably remember it. So I don't know. I would feel some type of way. I'd probably be 5. It'd be tears of joy. Like I find myself crying a lot more now because of my kids. And I would definitely cry if the Knicks won a championship.
Yeah, Joe, if they were to win a championship, you're gonna have to come down. We're gonna have to meet up somewhere, all of us.
Yeah,
and
I would definitely.
you can make more than pizza. I don't care. You can make other stuff too. It'd be fun and have a good time and definitely, man.
I would stop. And this is something blasphemous for me to say. The Knicks win a championship, I'd probably stop watching basketball. And anybody who knows me, one of the most ridiculous things that I could ever proclaim right now is that, because I know some people in my family would say, I know he's lying, but I might stop watching basketball. Because I'm like, why am I watching it other than to watch the Knicks win? And if they won, what more would I want to watch? I'm that serious. It's like, if they won, I don't think I'd watch it anymore. What am I watching it for?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think I'd be okay for a couple of years, like if they didn't win at all. Like I think I'd be good, be like, oh yeah, okay. I'd live off that high, that championship, for longer than I would say. Like it's weird. I'm a Yankee fan, so when you're a Yankee fan, you expect to win every year. It's just, and if you don't, you're mad that you didn't win or make the World Series, or get knocked out in the first round. Making the playoffs isn't enough, right? You need to win as a Yankee fan. It's just a different mentality. But with the Knicks and the Jets, with me, if the Jets were to win the Super Bowl, they could not be good for the next 5-10 years. I mean, like I got one, I'm good, because it's just such a foreign concept.
But what would New Yorkers do if the Knicks won? Like, Randall didn't score 3 points though. Somebody's gonna complain. There'd be somebody complaining. There'd be somebody.
It's true.
Yeah, RJ missed that 2 free throws in Game 3. But we won though. That's a typical New York. They would never be content with saying you got the title and be like, I don't know. The guy didn't tie his shoelaces on the other team. That's why we won. It'd be a typical New York. New York thought about that. I would implode. I'm going to keep it a buck. That'd be one of the best things.
Nuts. So crazy. Yeah, it would be. It's just foreign to even talk about. Like even talking about this right now, like it's never going to happen. So why are you even talking about it? Not even worth discussing. It's total fantasy. It's never going to happen. I have to keep thinking that way, so I'll enjoy it more when it does happen. Like that's how I look at it. I have to think about it. It's never going to happen, right? So it's never going to happen. All right. So again, series starts Saturday night, 6:00 Eastern time. Maybe depending on our schedules, we can kind of do something. I don't know. During the playoffs, if we can all get together, it'll be spur of the moment, but still be something we can do either after a game or before a game, whatever the case may be. Want to talk about it, we can get together and do something like that. Because again, the playoffs, it's every game obviously is that much more important. So
absolutely,
it's something we could talk about doing off screen, and we'll let you guys know that we're going to do that during the playoffs. Maybe intermittent shows here and there. But for this one, we're going to shut it down. So, Craig, tell them where they can talk to you.
Catch me on Twitter at Trays_Sun28, or you can find me on Facebook, the All Knicked Up fan page. And that is it.
Ty.
You can find me at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also find us on our fan page on Facebook, where I try to engage with you guys. Got some articles, some content. Make sure you come out and engage with us. And yes, Joe, you can get in on the group chat. You better come in, bro. We'll take it. We'll take it. Just show us some digital pizza.
Yeah, man, definitely. If we have those post game shows, you want to hop on, I'll send you the information. You can definitely hop on. It'll be very, very nice to have another voice. It'll be cool.
Yeah, so, enjoy this. We may not have the playoffs another 10 years, so enjoy this one.
Never know. That's true. That's a good point. All right. For me, you guys see my information right here. This one is my personal account at finally33 at all_Nick_up is the show Twitter account. I monitor that account. I try and post articles there. I interact with other personalities there. But if you're following at all_Nick_up, you can interact with me there as well. And I will talk to you about the show. You have comments about the show, anything. You can also watch our shows on the Twitter page. So if you want to give that a shot, you can go to the All Knicked Up Twitter handle, and you will see the same show that we're doing now. You can watch it there as well. It's another option for you guys. Again, my personal account is at finally33, spelled finally33 as you see on the screen. That's the place where you can find me and talk to me about anything that I discuss. I have another podcast called Straight Outta Gotham, which is a fandom podcast. You talk to me about that stuff there. I do movie reviews for Batman on Film. I review the show Titans, DC's Titans, that's on HBO Max. We're down to the final 8 episodes, I believe, are coming up. So I'll be reviewing those for the site, and you guys can read my reviews and then yell at me afterwards that I got everything wrong. I don't care. That's fine. So, all right. So that's it for us. So for Ty, Craig, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up. Good luck. Let's go, Knicks.
Yes, sir.
See you next time.
All right. Have a good night, guys.